My talk is about using the cognitive iteration machine, which is generative AI, to dissolve the literacy penalty. So hopefully that title will become clearer as I go through. My name is Kelly Webb-Davies. I'm an AI consultant at the AI Competency Centre at the University of Oxford. So Dominic doing the keynote this morning, we're in the same role in the same centre. My academic background is in linguistics, and my role prior to this was teaching academic English to international students when they arrive. And I have ADHD, and that's an important thing for this talk because basically I'm using myself as a case study. So it's going to be quite a personal talk about the way that generative AI has affordances for my writing process. So first I want to have a question. Put your hand up if you think best by writing. I think we'll see a few sometimes. Yeah, maybe not as many as I thought. I don't. Writing for me is a barrier to my thinking. So similar to Dominic, I don't have a PhD. I do sometimes get what he gets. Sometimes people will put doctor on my when I've got something. If you look me up, I have no written publications to my name at all. I do all my work through speaking, but I do have a PhD level role, and I do a lot of talks. So I do all of my thinking, for the most part, happens through my speaking. My work happens through speaking as well. So the point is that my competence doesn't happen through the writing, the polished text that happens at the end. So I hear a lot in the generative AI and education spaces this catchphrase, writing is thinking. So we can't take writing away from our students because writing is thinking. I hate it. There's these shades of ableism to it, which I really can't stand. So this is the thing I'm kind of fighting against. But writing can help thinking. It's not that I'm saying we don't need it at all. Of course, it's very important. It can help thinking. There's parts of the process of writing that do help me think in the structuring and the beginning processes. But it's not thought. So that's something that's really important to remember. I think we've mistaken a tool for thinking when we talk about this writing is thinking business. Thinking is multimodal. You don't have to write to think. For most of human history, most of the population have not been literate. Doesn't mean they weren't insightful, intelligent people. The majority of the population even being literate is very, very recent. There are entire cultures whose knowledge transferal, thinking of Indigenous Australian cultures, is an oral tradition. And they have very, very complex, very nuanced information about the environments where they live. So I'd say writing is language technology. It's not natural language. Speaking and signing is natural language. So children, you don't have to teach a student explicitly speaking or signing, but you do have to teach people writing explicitly. It's a representation of language. It's not language itself. And it does act as this kind of linguistic gatekeeping, unfortunately, because we judge people on their writing and their language. So if you write your ideas down in this formal academic form and people read that, it's kind of a representation of your education level and your intelligence. But that's not really how it works because not everyone speaks standard language or not everyone writes standard. It's not everyone's language. Academic English is no one's first language because we don't bring our children up speaking academic English. That would be weird, but kind of funny. A little 3-year-old speaking like a professor. But the language that was chosen to be standardized matters because the language that was chosen to be the one that was standardized is the language of powerful people. And other people have like a greater linguistic distance from that standard language, so it's harder for them to access these prestige spaces where you need that language to be accepted. But it's still necessary. We live in a society where you do have to write in a certain way, otherwise people will judge you. That's just a reality. I wish it wasn't like that, but it is. And we do have to still share information. We can record our information and share our information. We communicate through writing as well, so it's still necessary. But the question is how we get there. We can think of generative AI as a way for us to translate, to bridge that gap for people instead of excluding people because they can't communicate with that certain written style or to silence them. So this is a term from Dominic. The universal semantic translator is what we call generative AI. And so it can be used in a way to you can translate from, you have English, you can translate that to French. But even more than that, we've had machine translation for a while. generative AI is very good at maintaining the meaning while transferring the form. So you can also translate from plain English to academic English, or the other way around. You can simplify complex academic writing to make it more plain. You can change the form of something. You can speak into generative AI and get that spoken language and make it written. You can do it the other way around. You can press the read aloud button on generative AI and it will read something out to you, make it spoken. You can make a podcast out of a text in Notebook LM. You can take an image. I use it to write alt text for images when I'm posting them on social media. Here's an image, write alt text for me. So the meaning of it is still there, but it's being transformed into a written version. So it's a universal semantic translator. It's keeping the meaning, changes a little bit. I'm not saying it's perfect. It's much better than anything we've ever had before. So we can think about this as an inclusive teaching and assessment tool. So thinking about how can we preserve the ideas of our students but allow them to vary their modes, because people are diverse, they work in different ways. Just because writing works for some people doesn't mean it works for everyone. So if we can think of generative AI, and this is how I approach it, like I have my own ethical issues with the companies and the technology itself, but I think to myself, is it going to exist? Yes. And so I want it to benefit the most marginalized people who it can benefit the most. And this is a way that it can do it. So if we think about the validity of our teaching and our assessments especially, think about that intellectual process. Where does that happen? That intellectual process of arguing, of thinking of your opinions and supporting them and synthesizing things doesn't have to happen in academic English or standard language. It can happen in various different ways. So, and that's more important than the surface form. So usually I see university guidance which says you can use generative AI in your brainstorming and your ideas, but you have to write everything yourself, because they mistake this writing process for the thinking, like the end process, like representing it in like academic phrasing. But I think that's backwards. For me, the intellectual process is that beginning bit, thinking the ideas, doing the brainstorming, connecting information, synthesizing. All of that part is the part you should be doing yourself. And if you use some help at the end with generative AI to help you with the phrasing of that, fine. Like that's the cognitive offload. We have to decide where the good cognitive offload happens. I prefer it happening at the end there to help with the phrasing, and that beginning bit to be where the human stays in. And this relates to universal design for learning as well. So we assume variability is the norm. We should be designing for that. So we should be removing the barriers and not gatekeeping the people out. So now, welcome inside my ADHD brain. Enter at your own risk. You're free to leave right now if you want to. I'm going to go through basically how this works for me and the ways in which generative AI helps me as someone with ADHD. So I have this mind, my ideas come 100 kilometers an hour. They're always going. But if I try and write, and that slows me down, then I lose those ideas. So I was thinking about this when I was preparing this talk, and I came up with this analogy, which was thinking for me, the thinking has already happened by the time I come to writing, because the thinking never stops. The thinking is always going. And it's like for me juggling marbles. These marbles, they're heavy, you have to be fast. If I'm speaking, I can keep up with my thoughts. Speak fast, I can loop back around, I can follow tangents, and as long as I'm speaking, I can keep up with it. But if I'm writing, it feels like someone's put weights on my wrists. And so I'm still trying to keep up with as fast as the thoughts are going, but I can't keep up. The marbles drop and I'll lose an idea and I'll lose another idea, because I'm so busy with trying to phrase in an academic way the way I'm supposed to write it that I just lose the ideas, and it feels like a barrier. There's also this executive dysfunction double edge. So this is the issue that people with ADHD have, is with their executive function. For one thing, it's difficult to start writing because people with ADHD have a interest-based nervous system, not importance-based. So the things I want to do are the things I'm interested in. I'm very good at that if I'm interested in something, but starting writing is not very interesting. I'm expecting it to be difficult because of what I just described, and so it's very hard to get started. And then when I do start, and then I get locked into it, I get hyper-focused, and then I can't get out of it. So I neglect like basic necessities like drinking water, that sort of thing. So if we think about disability as a social issue, a social environment, this is only a disability for me because of how we expect people to communicate their knowledge through writing. If I had the tools, this could make my traits, which are a disability, become strengths. So the reason I don't have a PhD, just to be clear, is I started one. I flunked out of it 10 years ago. Didn't realize at the time it was because of executive dysfunction. I just couldn't start the things I needed to do during that PhD. And so I'm going to go through basically the features, like the symptoms of ADHD, kind of one by one through some of them, and just explain how using something like ChatGPT helps me. And the first one is task initiation paralysis. So this is what I was talking about. You just can't get started on something. Doesn't mean you're lazy. It just means that your brain doesn't work in a way that your brain knows you're not going to be getting much dopamine from that task before you start it. So it's not going to start doing it. You don't want to do it. You'll find something else. You'll go clean the house. You'll go for a walk. You'll do something else. You'll scroll TikTok instead of starting that thing. Story of my PhD. But if I can start, instead of starting with a black page, I can start with something that has something on it instead, then I can get going a little bit more easily. It's already there. It's gotten past the hard part. So then I can start working on what I want to do. Again, the racing thoughts. I can now capture them in time. Because I can speak to ChatGPT, that dictate button is my favorite button in the world. Press that button, I can just word vomit all of these ideas. So I have the ideas, they're in my head. So they're there, they're my own intellectual property. I just need to communicate them somehow, get them out. But spoken language is a bit different to written language. So in the past, with past language technology, this didn't work so well. Microsoft Word has had a dictate button for a long time, but you have to be quite precise when you're using that because it was very the words had to be precise, you had to pronounce them properly, it was very janky, and it still would slow you down. But with ChatGPT, with generative AI, more semantic-based language technology, LLMs, they're very good at this because they take context as well when they're doing the transcription. So I can be fast, I can be messy, I can correct myself, I can and and it won't put that into the transcription. It'll just kind of get the meaning out as I was saying it. And I can just... So when we were talking yesterday about the training we do at Oxford, we don't even do any prompt engineering training at Oxford. We say, just don't worry about it. Just put dictate button on and just talk. Just dump out... You need context, you need details to get it to do what you want it to do. Just talk to it. It's a different workflow, but it works. And we even do this in our team at the AI Competency Centre. If we have something complex to work out, we will have a team meeting with transcription on and we'll bounce off each other. It's really dialogic. But all of that's information. Even though it's spoken language, it's still information. And then we'll take that transcript, put it into the LLM and say, structure this, give me some ideas. We did this when we were building our new website. What should we have on our website? How should we structure it? And then, the results come out. They're not perfect, but then this is the iteration. Then you go in and you correct it and you change it. Another thing that people with ADHD have is rejection sensitivity dysphoria, which means we experience not only criticism, but even perceived criticism. It doesn't even need to be actual criticism. It can be someone just not responding to a text and you worry about. And this comes from a lifetime of being told you're too much, but not really understanding why. And this gives you some safe iteration, or some safe feedback. So I know ChatGPT is not a person. I can ask it to give me some feedback. I don't have to worry about someone judging me. And the other thing is that it gets me past this perfectionism, which comes from the rejection sensitivity dysphoria. So I will spend so long making sure the phrasing of what I'm writing is perfect because I fear someone judging me for the way I've written something, which is not an illegitimate fear because people do judge people on the way that they express their language. And so then I can concentrate more on the substance first. I can concentrate more on my arguments, what I'm doing. And I don't have to worry so much about how I'm expressing it. I just get the ideas out. Then I can worry about the post-editing, the phrasing afterwards. Overwhelm. So if you come into a really big project, people with ADHD have time blindness. So we underestimate or really overestimate how long something is going to take. And so instead of coming across this big project, like maybe a PhD, which is really difficult to get started on, now I can use ChatGPT to help me break it down into a structure, into chunks, to help structure it, and to give me more momentum going into it. So that's really useful as well. Okay, so one other thing I think I wanted to mention with this was in terms of memory. So memory dysfunction is one of the things which is really a part of ADHD. And so I have rubbish-free recall memory, but really good recognition. So through my life, I never understood why this was until I got my diagnosis. But I can watch a movie, I can watch a series, I can read a book, I can finish it and have a general vibe of what happened in it. But if you ask me what happened, I can't tell you because my free recall is not very good. But if I watch it again or read it again, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember what's coming up now. I remember I got the recognition, it's reminding me what's coming. So I think this happens in my writing as well. If I'm trying to produce some academic wording from nothing, it's very hard because I just can't remember how am I supposed to phrase that. It feels unnatural, academic phrasing, because that's not how I talk. But if I have ChatGPT do my first draft for me, and then I can go in and recognize, no, that's not right, I need to change this. This is kind of the workflow. So how I built this talk, the QR code is a blog. This talk is based on a blog I wrote earlier in the year, which was going through the symptoms and talking about how generative AI helps me. So I uploaded that blog into ChatGPT, because it's all my ideas, all my information, said, okay, I need to do a talk on this. I want this additional information as well. So give me a structure. And it gave me a structure for this talk. And then what I do is, as I read through what it's giving me, this is the iteration phase. I'll press that dictate button, and as if I was maybe talking to a student or an intern, I'll say, okay, I like that, I like this, I don't like that, do this, blah, 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 and then go, okay, redo it, and then it'll do it again. And I'll go through this process a lot. And I've tested this with my writing process as well. I've written a blog recently, which was entirely written by myself with no generative AI. And then the next blog I wrote, I used my normal process using generative AI. The time difference wasn't actually that much different, but I enjoyed the second one much more. It was much easier to get started. So I just wouldn't write blogs if I wasn't using generative AI to help me. My takeaway message is generative AI didn't replace me. We're really worried about generative AI taking away people's creativity and their critical thinking. For some people, it enables them. And it helps them to be able to enter places, especially people who speak English as a second language, people who speak stigmatized varieties of language as well. Doesn't mean they're not intelligent, it's just that we think of that variety of language as one which shouldn't exist in formal or prestige spaces. So we need to think about who we're missing out on if we don't allow this as accessibility technology, if we don't allow people to function with their preferred modes in education. So you're missing out on people like me and Dominic, potentially, who never were able to get PhDs. But our ideas are apparently valued because we found ourselves in these positions. But there are a lot of people who've missed out on academia just because they have barriers to writing. So we need to enable people's minds and stop policing the modes that they use to communicate and to develop their thinking. That's the end. Thank you. So I have a little accessibility request on the bottom. So one question at a time and concise explanations, because I will focus on the first thing you say and I'll have an answer for it. And if I don't have a chance to say it, I'll be worried I'm going to lose it and I'll probably interrupt you.